supervisor would have needed
Message
a two-thirds
received.
vote, but as a
Do you want to hear it?
the same person in the government could introduce it and it would only need 50% plus one.
Right, and moreover, city staff helped write it. Remember, they use the full weight of the
Message
bureaucracy when
received.
they do this.
Do you want to hear
keep
it?
in mind is that there were about 6 of these, what we call post-upland taxes, 2 of which, one in San Diego and one in Alameda. When this was originally voted on, the ballot label itself and the analysis says requires a 2/3 vote passage. Well, after the Upland decision, they changed their mind. They said, oh, we know what we said in the ballot material, that it's going to require
Message
a 2/3
received.
vote. But
Do you
now,
want to hear
even though
it?
it didn't get 2/3, they got a simple majority, we're simply going to deem it passed. That's what they did. They lied to the voters about what the vote threshold was, and then when it didn't meet the Prop 13 threshold, they said, well, it got more than 50%, so we're going to deem it or treat it as passed. That's extremely
Message received.
deceptive.
So
Do you want to hear it?
loophole down, to close this up and protect you from this sort of manipulation, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association with other parties put together the Taxpayer Protection Act, Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act, which has qualified for the November ballot. It will be on the November 2024 ballot.
Message received.
This loophole. It
Do
says
you want to hear it?
2/3 means 2/3, and it doesn't matter how it gets on the ballot. A special tax needs a 2/3 vote of the electorate. And it has a lot of other protections that are really important. And the government doesn't like it. They are bothered by the fact that it's going to make it harder to raise your
Do you
taxes.
want to
They
hear
would like
it?
it to be easier to raise your taxes, easier to trick you into voting for taxes with all kinds of ballot games. And the Taxpayer Protection Act says, no, you're going to have ballot transparency. If it's a tax, it's going to say it's a tax. And if it's a fee, it has to be approved by an elected body, not by some bureaucrat. So they can't all say, oh, our hands are clean, we didn't do it. And meanwhile, you're paying and paying and no one's responsible for it. Everybody says, oh, well, the other guy made me do it. No, no, no. A fee has to be approved by the people you elect. They have to be accountable for these things. They have to do their job. And if they need the money, they have to come to you and say, well, this is why we need it and this is why we're voting for it. And then you can deal with that at the next election if you're not happy. But to delegate everything to the bureaucracy, and then the bureaucracy says, well, we're just doing what the legislature told us. The legislature says, well, it's not us, it's the regulators. They say, no more of that. So that's in the Taxpayer Protection Act. Governor Jerry Brown thinks that this makes it too hard to fight climate change. Taxpayer protection makes it too hard to fight climate change, which I think is kind of a sketchy argument. What do you think?
Yeah, I think sketchy is being a little charitable. I think,
Message received. Do you want to hear it?
in the litigation, by the way, Governor Brown, along with many other tax and spend interests, filed friend of the court briefs in the litigation originally instituted by the legislature and Governor Newsom
Do you want to hear it?
to take the Taxpayer Protection Act off the ballot. Let's be clear. The Taxpayer Protection Act has already qualified for the November ballot. We met all the requirements for duly qualifying a constitutional amendment. It's supposed to be on the ballot, and they don't, as Susan said, they don't like it and they want to pull it off the ballot. Well, number one, this is evidence of the fact that they're very scared of it, and it's also evidence that it provides a lot of additional protection for taxpayers. But one of the things that Jerry Brown said in one of his affidavits in his briefs, he said it doesn't make sense to allow voters to vote on all these tax increases. Well, we reminded the California Supreme Court that Jerry Brown over again said no new taxes without voter approval.
That's right, he did. Remember that.
That was his position. That was 10 years ago, something like that. I mean, that was his position, and it.
Now his position is it depends on the meaning of the word tax is. That's his position now.
Yes, he goes. Well,
Message
he'd probably say that
Do you want to hear
is
it?
a hobgoblin of little minds.
Yeah, he probably would. He'd probably say it in Latin, and then we'd have to run to the dictionary and try to figure it out. You're listening to the Howard Jarvis Radio Show with John Kupal, president of HJTA, and me, Susan Shelley, vice president of communications for the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. And by the way, if you're not already a member, why not? It's only $15 a year. Welcome to the organization. strengthen the voice of taxpayers, be a member of this great historic organization that put
Message
Prop 13
received.
on the ballot.
Do you want
and
to
has
hear it?
helped Californians stay in their homes and not be taxed out of them. Should we take some calls?
Of course, it goes
Yeah,
right
let's take
when
some
you're
calls.
not
Let's talk to
supposed
Kevin
to.
in San Clemente. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for calling.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call. I have an issue. I've been in California all my
Message
life, and
received.
I'm probably going to
Do
be
you want
leaving
to hear
because
it?
I can't afford to stay here. But that being said, is there a legal way that we could prevent the selling of existing residential properties to foreign
Message
investors
received.
and these big
Do you want to hear
businesses
it?
that are turning these residential properties into rentals? Now, it's true that, back in the day when they were redlining, the people that could not afford homes,
Message received.
you
Do
know,
you want
20,
to hear
30
it?
years later, and most of them were of different color than, the whites. And when they got sick and they had children and wanted to send them to school, they didn't have any
Message
equity in a home
received.
because they were
Do
renting.
you want to hear it?
And renters are known to have a life expectancy of 4.5 years less than a homeowner. And why are we allowing existing inventory or residential properties to be purchased by foreign entities who are benefiting from all the appreciation that should be going towards the health of our citizens?
Kevin, that's a great question, and I'm going to ask that of the attorney on this show, John Cabal. What's the answer to
Well,
that question?
first of all, I think, thank you for your call. Two different issues here. I think it's entirely legal and appropriate to limit the extent to which foreign interests can purchase real estate in California, particularly single-family residential homes. That there are some problems enforcing that, but I certainly think you can make a case for public policy that this is the speculators are driving
Huge
the
problem.
prices.
No law enforcement
Different
here.
for
Don't care.
American-based speculators like BlackRock. Kevin, I think what you're referring to is how BlackRock scarfed up in the depths of the recession. BlackRock came in and was paying cash for thousands of foreclosed homes. And you know what? That was a good investment for them because they flipped many of those houses and sold them to other investors.
Message received.
I think
Do you want to hear
I
it?
think the problem is the way you confront these speculators is you change the basic housing policy